All right, you got the recording sign?
Oh, got it.
You still consent to the recording of this podcast
I do.
and the distribution of this podcast on various platforms?
Absolutely. As long
All
as
right.
you tag me and
All
shout
right.
out on Instagram.
Awesome, man. Good thing the legalities are out of the way. So, man, Lieutenant Dabon, man, what's up? We've been talking about this for a while.
We have, yes.
Hey, you've done podcasts before, huh?
I've done something like it. Actually, a buddy of mine, when I was back home in Jersey City,
Brick City.
he brought up Jersey's, bricks, yeah. So he brought up the idea to me, and I was like, I don't know, man. It's kind of weird. Like, so you're telling me you want to have us just sit in the living room and do what we already do, but record it? Like, that's kind of sketchy because we talk about some outlandish shit sometimes.
True. It can. You got to watch out. You got to watch out what you say.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm always down for things like this. I think it's good.
See, but I think that's where it's at, man. I think that traditional media has failed people by being too structured, you know what I mean? And too like stiff and phony and, you know, following corporate agendas. I think people, when it comes down to it, want to hear like real conversation. What are real people saying?
They want like the raw truth. Everyone sees, you know, a face and has a perception of people and things like that. But when they get the real truth and the real behind the scenes of like, oh, this is what this person's thinking, I think that's what they really want to know.
Yeah. And not only that, man, one of the reasons why I started this is because I would hear interviews and, you know, the person would ask like a certain line of questions and either they wouldn't go as in depth as I wanted them to, or they would avoid a whole aspect of something. And you know, it's because
there's an agenda somewhere.
Yeah, exactly, man. Always about that, dude. All right, so real quick, man, tell people where you're from.
So I'm from Belleville, New Jersey, a small little town right next to Newark, New Jersey. Probably heard of Newark. Airport's there. It's famous for a bunch of different things.
Crime.
Number one, yeah. So yeah, born and raised in Jersey. Grew up in Jersey City, where my family relocated from there to Belleville. And yeah, that's pretty much where I'm from.
Where's your family originally from, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so my family's from the Philippines. My mom actually lived in Vegas before coming to Jersey. So it's funny, my mom has been in country and been a citizen for I think twice as long as my father has. But my mom still has a terrible like accent and is like super Filipino.
Oh yeah.
My dad, who's been in the country, I guess half the time she has fully like adopted everything America has to offer. So like this dude, like he's like, what accent are you? He's one of those guys that doesn't believe he has an accent, so he tries not to do it, but it just makes it worse. So yeah, that's my dad. And he
sounds like a fun guy though, man.
He's a good time, man. He's a riot. He fucking just loves beer and like hanging out and working on his truck and loves to fish on the weekends. I'm telling you, he is like all about like red, white, and blue. It's kind of funny.
Awesome, man. So you say you're more like your dad or what?
I think I get a lot of the fun stuff from my dad. I think when it comes to having a good time and interacting with people, that's definitely my dad. And my mom's a little bit more on the serious end. She handles all like the decisions and stuff like that. So,
all right, man. So so your family gets here, and your mom earlier is in Vegas. She ends up with your dad, and you guys are like middle class America in New Jersey, or what's it like for you guys?
I would say growing up, I'd say a little bit below middle class.
So lower middle class.
Yeah, lower middle class, and then especially in Jersey City, it's right across the city. You know, you're an inner city kid. Yeah, I think it's hard to be considered middle class in an inner city, any inner city area.
So let me ask you this: were you living in an apartment, or did you guys have your own house?
So in Jersey City, yeah, we lived in an apartment. Okay. Once we relocated to Belleville, that's when they decided to buy a house, and I think that was also the family was getting bigger. So like in Jersey City, it was just me, and then they had my little brother, my little sister, and then they were like, you know what, like we need, you know, probably raise a family, we need a house. So
you guys are moving on up.
Yeah,
that's awesome, man. So in Jersey City, like, okay, so me growing up, I'm a lot older than you are, but I grew up in New York, across the river from you.
Right.
But for me growing up, when I ever always thought about like, Jersey City, Brick City, Redman, all the hip hop stuff, But on the streets, the word for New Jersey was like, not really like could you get stuff like tax free, but it was all about car stealing. Was that like a big thing?
Sure. So in
Remember any
Jersey
of that?
City for sure. So there's a strip in Jersey City. It's it's out of my mind, but
It's all right.
there's a strip, and it's like everyone knows you never buy a car from there.
Oh shit!
Like those are cars that are repoed, like they stole them, like
scratch off the numbers.
Yeah, you drive down that road, and you'll be like, that car wasn't there yesterday. Like that was definitely some like, and they're good about it. So I mean, the car scene is really big in Jersey. I don't know why, because the roads are shitty. I think if you're gonna have a good car scene, the road should be on. It's like in Vegas, right? The roads are perfect to have nice cars. It makes sense. Jersey, like literally, if you have a nice car, it's just stupid. And the weather's kind of similar to here where we're at in Korea. So it's like,
4 seasons. Yeah.
When it snows, like it's just like you're trapped, and then like the salt ruins the roads, and then it's terrible. Like I think the perfect car for the Northeast is like an SUV or just anything all-wheel drive.
Yeah.
So like sports cars are out the window.
In the summertime, if you got the money to have more than one car, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, like in that kind of area, that's a rough area. I don't know if people, if they just met you on face value, would think that you were from Brick City or around that area, man.
Yeah, no, for sure. Definitely not face value. Definitely not. So it's funny when people like talk about their upbringing and stuff, and I'm like, oh wow, like I don't know if I should say anything because like I know what you're talking about, but it's like I know like if I say something, I'll be like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, man. Like get out of here. I'm like, all right, that's cool. Like I was literally in it, man.
Yeah. You seem to me, man, but from the times that we've talked, like a guy who's I don't want to use the word stuck between multiple worlds, but you're a guy who moves through multiple worlds, right? Because you're American, Filipino, Asian, Northeast, Army, you went to college, you got all these different type of things there, you know what I mean? It's hard to put you down in one little category.
Yeah, and I think I'm glad you say that, guy. That's probably the best compliment I could have ever received.
You're welcome.
I like to think I can be in any like kind of social circle and just like be comfortable with that. There was a point, I think, so I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to travel a little bit after high school and stuff like that. And, traveling definitely opened my eyes to saying like, the world's a lot bigger than Jersey,
Yeah.
And I hope like for anyone to realize that. I think what it has to come to is like just traveling and seeing the world. Once you see the world and start understanding, like, because as a hot-headed high schooler, right? The world is yours. Like you think you can grab anything by storm.
Nobody can tell you shit, right? Yeah.
Nobody can tell you shit. You're the guy. You're the alpha. You're the one calling all the shots. It's your life. It's my world. You know what I mean? I'm gonna make it no matter what. So start traveling. You start seeing the world. Open your eyes to some things, and I think you'll start to realize, like, you know what? Like, I need to just chill out and like really understand everything for what it is.
Yeah. It sounds like did you get into any kind of trouble in high school or something? What's going on, man? What's your story? Don't incriminate yourself though, man. All right. I'm not a lawyer.
No, I was never like a troublemaker. I think I just went through a lot with my family. Like, so my father at the time was going through a lot because my grandfather, his father, just got diagnosed with terminal prostate cancer. And he was living in the Philippines. So this is around the end of my sophomore year and then onward. So if they get the diagnosis, terminal prostate, my father's not taking it well at all. He's like just on a bender for those like next 3 years or 2 years.
Oh man.
All he wants to do is like, I need to go home and like spend time with my father. But he's just like, my mom, she's a serious one making all the decisions. Like, I understand what you're going through. I'm sorry, but like, we have a family. You can't just leave. So
Right.
that was hard for him to accept, and I think like that made him. I think he was just trying to cope, and unfortunately for him, his coping was alcohol. So I just remember him like coming home almost like every day from work and just getting blasted.
Wow.
And I'm the oldest of the house, and like I see it, and I'm just like, oh, look, like there he goes again. And my brother and sister were too, my brother and sister were too young at the time to really understand like what was going on. But at the same time, it was like, oh, like I really don't think like they needed to like see that or like have that image of him.
Yeah. Were you worried
So,
about him? Like he was gonna like you would end up losing him to alcohol or what?
no, I was never worried about him. He was functional. It's not like it was like there was never like anything aggressive or anything crazy. It was just sad to see like he would literally go home, buy like the Carlos Rossi like gallon
Yeah,
bottles
I
of
remember
wine.
those. Yeah.
Yeah, and just go to the basement, turn the TV on, and that was it. And then
That
woke
was
up the
his
next
way
day.
of coping with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he sort of,
So
it sounds like he stepped away from the family a little bit.
I wouldn't say step away, but he definitely kind of just he kind of just he forgot what his role was as a father, I think.
Yeah.
So that kind of made me mature a little bit faster.
So you sort of filled the shoes where you could.
Yeah. So like there were times where he would just do that, and then like I was an athlete at the time, so I would go home, change, go to practice, come back. There'd be no dinner, make dinner for everyone. Little things like that, like make sure like, oh, like is your homework done, stuff like that.
Okay.
Just be like an extra role model. Like I just had more responsibility at a certain point in high school, more than I wanted to.
Or more than you
So
probably should have had at that age. Yeah.
yeah, and I think for anyone, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there, right, that have that same kind of like you don't feel like you deserve having all this responsibility because you're so young. You have friends that are, like doing X, Y, and Z, but you can't because you have responsibility with family. Like, and there's definitely a lot of people out there like that. But for anyone out there that's listening, that's like that, just keep going because it's gonna pay off in the long run.
I gotta say, it sounds like you handled it well though, because I've met people and I know people that, it could have went a different way had you been someone else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. My mom, and like I would if there's one person I would be venting to all the time about it, like I was like, I don't deserve this shit. Like, why am I doing this? Like, this is his job and stuff like that. My mom, she definitely kept my head straight and kept me grounded and told me like, I know, but she was explaining to me he's going through something, like, he'll go.
And this is like in high school this happens? How old
Yeah,
are
this is
you?
in high school. Yeah, so I was from 16 to 18 is when this was going on.
Wow.
And then eventually, like one summer, it's like no one's in school. They had saved enough money to send him to go surprise visit his dad. And then that helped him a lot. He got that, like, enjoy that last few months with him and just, have good memories. And I think all this, no, it was just him and his sister, my aunt, who was living in Jersey, and they went to go visit. And then fast forward to high school graduation. So we're all like, because he's in the Philippines, right? My grandfather. So we would always talk on like Skype at the time. That's what we were using. And you could, call from your phone, kind of like Zoom right now, call from your phone, wherever. Right. And I remember the night before my graduation, I was telling him, like, I'm going to call you when they call my name and you're going to come with me to get my diploma. And then, so I call him at graduation, no answer. I'm like, that's weird. He usually answers my calls. And like, he knew like what the time was, like told him everything. So he didn't answer, call my name. Great. Graduation's over. Look at my family and they don't look too happy. And I'm kind of like, what's going on? Like, I just graduated high school. Like,
I see where this is going.
Yeah. So then, my sister kind of like fell on her knees and she started crying. And I was like, oh my God, please don't tell me.
Yeah.
And so then we caught a flight. The entire family caught a flight like the very next week. think it was like, so the graduation was on a Thursday. I think we flew out on Tuesday.
Wow.
And then we flew to the Philippines. Yeah, had to do the whole like funeral burial, and that was rough. But that whole turn of events at that time from 16 to 18, and then going to the Philippines, it really opened my eyes and kind of showed me like, damn,
Yeah,
it sucks.
it's a impactful thing to go through those type of experience, man. They reveal character a lot, you know.
Yeah, losing someone that you're close to is there's a lot of different ways you can look at it, right? You can look at it as like, you can be angry. I think it goes hand in hand with like the phases of like, what is it, grief?
Grief.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're angry at first, and then you're kind of just in denial. But once you accept it and you take it as a lesson and you take it for the good and not the bad, I think you're on the right path, and it'll show you. Once you're at that point where it's like you're looking at the good and the bad versus the bad, then you're gonna be telling yourself like, okay, like this happened for a reason, and I need to make sure that I like live up to what he wanted me to do. Like, what would he want me to do? Like, he wouldn't want us to just sit around here and do this.
That's a pretty healthy way of looking at it. Yeah.
Definitely. And that's just my outlook on life in general. Like, when things go south, they don't go my way. I'll be a little angry at first, and I'll be a little bit like, why? But once I get over it, I'm just like, all right, well, keep it moving. Like, there's no point in sitting around.
Yeah. Life only moves in one direction, and that's forward. You know, with all my time in the Navy and now coming over to the Army, the one thing that I've really, really adapted from the Army is embrace the suck. You know what I mean? It helps, man, from what I've noticed.
It is what it is probably the best saying anyone has ever told me. Like, like the Army, literally, it is what it is. Like, that should be their fucking motto.
It is what it is.
Yeah. And as long as you keep moving forward, that's all that matters, man, because that's what it's about.
All right. So I get that part of your life, man. Thank you for sharing that, man.
Absolutely.
What were you like in school? I know you mentioned you were an athlete, but what were grades like? And, what was your dreams, your aspirations, man?
Yeah. So in high school, I was an athlete.
What sport or multiple sports, whatever?
Basketball.
B-ball.
Yeah. So I graduated high school first semester. I got accepted to UNLV, and I was just like redshirting on the basketball team. Like, I was supposed to go to a small state school in Jersey, and it was Division III and play there, William Patterson, which is where I ultimately ended up.
You're talking high school or you're talking college?
College.
Oh, no, I'm talking about high school.
Oh, high school.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So
we'll get to college.
Okay. High school, so my first year high school, I went to a private school, St. Peter's Prep, pretty well known. They have great athletic programs, great academic programs.
Nice.
And that was a grind. Like, I was like, school, I remember it was like school from like, and I had to commute. I had to take the train and the light rail, all this shit to get to a high school.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm taking all these like methods of transportation, get to class. So I would wake up at 5, get on the train by like 6:30, being in school at 7:30. I think first period was like 7:45 or 8:10, and then from 8 to like 3. So this private school, they adopted like the I guess the college way of classes. So like you would have blocks, right? Like from 8:15 to 9:45, this is your class, and then same thing throughout the day. And then you would have lunch, and you'd also have a free period. And they did that because it's called St. Peter's Prep, because back in the day, you would go to this preparatory school, and then you would just go to the St. Peter's University, which was like up the street.
I get it now.
Yeah, so they adopted that like college kind of schedule. So that was good to be exposed to that, because I wasn't at first. I was like, oh, like, what is this? So it was kind of nice.
Did you take well to it? Was that a good environment for you?
I did. Yeah. It was definitely a good environment. So
good grades.
Yeah. So that school, like, you're surrounded against like trust fund kids. Like, people that have money and stuff like that.
I
So
don't know how I would have done
me
against
from
that.
the growing up in the inner city and then,
Yeah.
being in a public school system for
Yeah.
like middle school and grammar school in Belleville, to go into like a school where it's like, just a totally different world. Like
Yeah.
their experiences are so different. Like they're coming back first day of school talking about, I just came back from Barbados or St. Martin for my family's vacation. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
man, I was
Yeah.
up the
Yeah.
block. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's
that
a
was
different world. Yeah.
yeah. And I think it's good though, because at such a young age, right, freshman in high school, once I got to college, I was like, oh, they're all like this. Like, this is like, you know what I mean? Like, so I
Yeah.
understood at that point, like, wow, like there's so many other types of people out there.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of opened up your world and everything, your point of view of things.
Yeah. And then there's definitely a class disparity, right? So like you can definitely see like, oh, like these are the kids that they don't have a care in the world just because their family's so well off.
Yeah, I think they do. I think they have a different care because it feels really different when you're around those people. And I break it down from my perspective. Anyone who's listening, like I don't have anything against people who are wealthy or anything like that. But sure. When I made that kind of sound like what you were saying, that you were around these trust fund kids, because I've been around people like that. It's kind of us because you feel different. And what I think that motion comes from my perspective, growing up in inner city New York, Brooklyn, East New York, Brooklyn, really, really poor, that in my environment, a lot of me and a lot of people that I grew up with, we suffered from the burden of low expectations. Yes, where these people come from a completely opposite thing, where they suffer from the burden of maybe high expectations. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like your whole world, your whole mentality, that when you're around someone like that, they seem so different to you that you just kind of like, you feel out of place in a way,
Yeah.
I don't know if that resonates with you at all.
Yeah, like no, for sure. Like I remember, I think it was like one of the first lunches I had, right? It was in the first week of school there. We go to get lunch. So like they trust, like you get lunch off campus, right? So like that's something that like, inner city schools, they probably can't do.
Nah, right? You probably got like armed guards and stuff.
Yeah, so like literally like the lunch bell rang and then people just dispersed. It was like a college campus. So you got lunch, you came back.
Yeah.
Looking back, I always think about that and like they really trusted us. Like we literally could have just left and then like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they trusted us and let us do things like that. And then I just remember the first lunch we had. I'm looking at the menu at this I forgot what it was. It was an Italian restaurant. And I'm looking like, damn, like $20. Like I got $20 for the week, man. I gotta make $20 last.
Uh-huh.
And then these dudes are ordering shit off the menu like nothing. And I'm like, how are you guys paying for this? I'm like, oh, I'm using the credit card that my dad gave me or something like that. And I'm like, credit card. Credit card. Like, what the heck? Like I got $20 cash and my dad literally told me Monday morning when he gave it to me, make sure this lasts a week.
Make that last a week, yeah. So did you get into the school because of your athleticism?
Both. So I was always a pretty good student, I guess. Okay. I always had to work like to get to where I was at. I was never given like
it didn't come easy to you. You had to put some effort.
Yeah. Like I'm not physically like I'm like probably average across the board, right? Like I'm only 5'10", buck 80. And I was even smaller back in high school. Right. So to play at that level of basketball for what it was, like I wasn't getting much playing time either. Like and it was only to make the freshman basketball team too.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So every day was
a guard or what were you?
I was a guard, yeah. So every day was a grind. Like I remember it would be like school, homework. I would bang out all my homework right after school in the library. And then practice would be at like, I think 5 because the varsity team always had it first.
Yeah.
So
you guys had the scraps.
Yeah. Went to practice and then I would have to like run to catch the train back home. That's another hour and a half, 2 hours. Go back home, do whatever other studying or whatever else I needed to do. Then the day would restart. So like that in my freshman year, once I got into the military and the army, it wasn't new to me. It was like, oh, like I've done this before.
That regimen, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's interesting, man. Like, because I had a completely different upbringing and experience. And I wonder what my life would have been like have I had that sort of structure early on. But I'm really interested in like who, who were you? Like, did you know who you were at that point in your life, at that age in high school? You feel like you had a grip on that?
Yeah, no, it's for that at that point in my life, I can tell you, I was like, ball is life. I'm gonna make it. League is where I'm going. I'm
Oh
gonna be.
shit.
So this is like freshman. Jeremy Lin happened, I think, my junior year, right? Like the whole
Nice.
Jeremy Lin
Yeah, I
insanity.
remember that.
So like, as an Asian American
Insanity.
growing
That's
up,
what it was. Yeah.
yeah, growing up as an Asian American playing basketball,
Mm.
there's not many like options, right? It's just like you either go back to whatever native country your family's from and play over there,
Mhm.
or like you try and bust your ass to get to the league, because there's only a handful of Asian Americans you can probably count in the NBA right now.
Yeah.
Then insanity happens, and now as an Asian American, right, that doesn't go like any Asian American, Chinese, Korean, Filipino, whatever. You see that, right? You see like, oh my God, like that could be me, right? So the
Right. Right.
representation is huge. Like after that
Yeah.
whole thing, that's when I was like, we need more representation. Like we need more people. Like I understand now what people feel like when it's like you see someone that looks like you on the TV, and like
It's a big
people are cheering
deal.
them on. It's like, yeah, it's like if he could do it, I could do it. Like last time we don't, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, then Stanley happened, and then I was like, if he did it, I could do it. Like I just gotta keep working. So I kept working. And then like move on to college, and then yeah, and then at college I got hurt. So I got hurt playing basketball. It was a stupid injury, like it was crazy. And then
Tell me
I
what happened.
remember, so we were winning, right? Like we're up like 40 points against this team.
Damn.
Yeah. I'm on a fast break by myself. I go up to dunk, and whatever, I flush it in. As I land, it felt like someone like kind of like put their, when you're standing and someone kind of like knees you in the back of your knee and you kind
Mhm.
of like give out.
The back of it gives
It
out.
felt
Yeah.
like that. It felt like that, right?
But
So I was like,
nobody
oh,
was next to you.
it was just me, fast
Okay.
break, whatever. I landed, I felt it. I was like, whoa, what the hell? I just landed bad, right?
Mhm.
And then I knew, I was like, oh my God, I think I just like popped something, like my knee is done.
Did you
So I
fall down or
landed,
what?
I fell, yeah, I immediately hit the ground. And I was like, it wasn't like a pain where it was like I wanted to scream out, but it was like I got aired out.
Uh-huh.
So I was just like, oh my God, like what just happened? Like what?
I think your mind went there immediately.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about the moment and you being hurt. It was like, what does this mean for my future?
Yeah. My mind was just like, what? Like, yeah, like what? So it ended up being like I had a tear in my meniscus. I didn't need surgery at the time. So it was literally just like I was just in a brace for like the next 3 months, and that sucked. And like that time where I was hurt, because we take everything for granted, right? Like walking like just normally, like being able to type normally, like you could like break a finger and that would fuck up everything you do at work.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and we take that for granted. So when I was hurt and I couldn't play basketball, I couldn't do anything, couldn't bear weight on that leg. It like put everything in perspective for me. I was like, all right, well, I got to start considering like ball is not life anymore. Like I can't, I could still play, right? Still play to this day, but I can't play at that level, knowing my leg is already hurt. And because what happens if it happens again? So I had that like, come to Jesus moment with myself. Like, all right, well, I need to start reevaluating my options here.
Okay. And what you do next?
Yeah. So then I was like, all right, well, I'm going to put all my focus into school. So for undergrad, I studied pre-med, but my degree.
But you're still playing basketball, right? Or do you stop playing?
I am. I would say like recreationally.
But not on the team anymore.
Yeah, not on a team. I mean, I would love to. I just don't have the time, and I have other priorities now. So like
no, I'm saying like in college, like what were you a freshman, a sophomore? Like when did that
So this was my sophomore year in college.
And you stopped playing basketball for the college team, or?
No, so this tournament was an off-season tournament. So it wasn't even with the college team. It was like I was just playing in a tournament. Yeah. So in that time I recovered, I was able to come back. And then so that was going into junior year, and I just sat, like I was just there. Because I was in college, is like once you're on the team, you're fighting every day like to maintain a spot. But like I was just there, and I was like practicing with them, more of a practice player. Okay. And kind of just like talking with the guys and stuff like that. But
did they know about your injury?
Yeah, they knew.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I told them like the next day. I was like, hey, like this is what it is, and okay, well,
Mm.
still had to like retry out and stuff like that, which sucked because like coming off an injury. So the thing about being an athlete, right? When you get hurt and then like you go through physical therapy and you're doing all these things, is that
Mm.
you have to relearn to do things, right? So you know that you're capable of doing much more because you've done it already. So when you're relearning,
Right.
it's like very hard on your mental because you're just like, why am I like, why can't I do this? Like, why? Like I've done it before, and I've done it faster, stronger. Like why?
Right.
And it's just like dealing with just battling that injury. And I think what a lot of people don't understand is that injury, like when you look at athletes and people say like, oh, he's not the same after the injury, they don't realize what it does, like what the injury did to that athlete's like mental health or
Yeah,
whatever.
right. I see
Because
what you're saying. It's like you were
when you're playing,
Superman before, but then you
yeah,
got shot and the bullet made you bleed.
yeah.
Yeah.
And when you're playing, right, it's like I don't want to go through the recovery and rehab again, not because it sucked, but because of how much time it took me away from the game
Mm. Yeah.
or from the sport, right? So same thing in the army, right? Like I do everything like training. I plan it in a way where I go hard and train. Like the training should be harder. Like my physical training should be harder than when I have to execute. Because when I
Mm.
execute, I shouldn't be at 100%. I should be
Mm.
going at 70% when it comes down to it.
Okay.
That way, when it comes time to train, like and execute, you're not burning out. Because going 100% all the way through, that's insane. Like
Yeah.
that's just
I agree with that too. There's people who have different views on things, but yeah, I see where you're going with that.
yeah.
I mean, at my age, I never really go 100% at anything, man. I'm not trying to kill myself, dude. But as far as like, if I think, because I played baseball, I played football. As far as practice goes, man, I think especially for like football, like going 100% is really, really good at practice. But like in the weight room and stuff like that, I think you need to get yourself to a place where your workout is not to be like a stud, it's to make you less injury prone in
Yeah.
those type of sports. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And if you're going
Yeah.
there like 100% to max out on everything, guess what? You're doing the opposite. You're gonna end up getting hurt sooner.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there's a little bit of a trap, right? Like social media definitely plays a role in this. And the trap is that like everyone's consumed with the end goal, right? Like
Uh-huh.
they see the end state. Social media, really ruins this for a lot of people because like you're on there, you're scrolling through and you see people and you're like, wow, like look at this person. Like, how do I get to be like that? Right.
Yeah.
And that person, right, this influencer can make all the videos they want about like, hey, like I got here, this is how I did it. It took me work and I made mistakes and X, Y, and Z. But on the other end, from the viewer's perspective, right? Because even I'm guilty of this, you're still like, oh, whatever, like I just need to do this and I'll get there. I just need, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the work, you don't understand how much work and like trial and error that needs to get done before that. You can definitely speed up the process. You just need to make a lot more mistakes. you know? And if you
Yeah.
have that time and you have that like you want to take that risk and go for it. But for a lot of people they don't have that time, they don't have the ability to take those risks.
Yeah. And I think that there's more than one way too. I think, a lot of people, but like in the army specific, since we're both in the army, you kind of get this mentality that where there's only one way to do things. And that's really not true. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Whether it's like leadership styles
for
or,
sure.
the way you PT or, whatever it is, however you approach something,
Yeah.
there's an endless amount of different ways to do it and get there. You know what I mean?
No, for sure. I totally agree with that. I personally like I don't care about who you are or what you have to say. If you think you have a better plan than me or better idea than me, great. Tell me. What is
Yeah,
it?
let's hear it.
You think so? And I'd just be like, oh, what is it? Or why do you think it's better? Okay, let's do it. You
Yeah.
could be Joe Schmo or you could be, my boss's boss. If you have a better plan and it makes more sense, we'll go with it.
Yeah, man. You gotta throw
Having
the
a
ego
one
out.
way, yeah, my way or the highway, especially with the military and being that is a bit like the military, right? It's a people's business. Like you're dealing with
Mhm.
people every day.
every
If you
day.
want
Yeah.
things to get done, you have to talk to people.
Mm-hmm. Definitely
Like,
communication. I think say
yeah,
that's like a really big skill. Yeah.
you know, like in the 3 shop, right? Like
Huh.
things come out of nowhere, left field, like every day. There's problems every day.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get it done? You just got to make one phone call. Literally, sometimes it's all about knowing who to talk to. Make
Yeah.
one phone call. Yeah, too easy. I can get that done for you.
Yeah. You don't have to be the one that has all the answers, but it helps if you know the right people who can get you those answers.
And I feel like, you know, if you're that one way or highway kind of person, it kind of just is like, well, you know, we can't do this because it doesn't fall in line with whatever this person wants done, you know, and that
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
just, you're just making it harder now, but okay.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Hey, that's everywhere, man. It's not just the army. Trust me, man.
Yeah,
That's you'll
I
find that
know.
everywhere, man. I think a lot of it has to do with insecurities, man. You know what I mean? Like we have our everyone has their own little stuff, but when you become a part of an organization, they end up having those tendencies or like that culture of like you know, this is the way, this is what Joe Schmo the soldier looks like. And then
Yeah.
anything, it's sort of because like anything that doesn't look like that or behaves like that is it's almost like we throw out the results that person might get. Like, hey, this person is really effective. Yeah, but they're over their body fat is too big. Like, yeah, but we don't want to lose this guy. This guy is really good at what he's doing. You know what I mean? But no, well, you know, this person, you know, maybe his PT is not that good, or he doesn't look as sharp in a uniform or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think from my experience so far, right? Like, and it's not much because I've only been in
Yeah,
for
yeah.
a fraction of how long you've been in,
Mm-hmm.
right? But so far, I think the best leaders and soldiers and mentors I've had are the ones that challenge other leaders and soldiers and develop an influence because of that. So not necessarily, when I say challenge, not necessarily like, hey, I'm not going to do that. It's more like, okay, well, like we'll do this, but like, why do you want to do this? Or
Yeah.
do you
Finding
like
that
to do.
person's motivation, like what needs to drive them.
And it's all about, you know, having like good emotional intelligence, right?
Uh-huh.
Because you need to know how to read people in order to understand how can I talk to this person to give them what they want, at the
Mm-hmm.
same time get what I want.
Definitely.
And so definitely emotional intelligence is one, because your delivery on how you say things or what you say to them is like key
Yeah.
in that interaction. So like me like just walking to your office and being like, hey, I need you to get this done like right now.
Yeah.
You're gonna be like, what? Like, you want me to drop everything I'm already doing because you need this done, is what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Versus like, hey man, like when you have time, like I would really appreciate this if you can get this done for me because this is what is coming down right now.
Uh-huh.
And blah blah. And then if you're like, oh blah blah, then I'd ask like, okay, well, what are you doing right now that's preventing you from doing this? Like, or moving it up your timeline. Oh, okay, well that's great. Well, if I help you with that, then you think we
Yeah.
can get it done? Yeah, yeah, no problem. All right, too easy.
Yeah. There's a
So it's
lot of
all
ways.
about, like, yeah, there's a lot of ways. It's like, it's almost like Wolf of Wall Street. You ever seen that when they're on the
Yeah,
phone and he's like coercing the
Mhm.
whole conversation? It's the
Yeah.
same kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's switch it up. Let's get up from the army a little bit, man. Let's go to well, actually kind of dealing with the army. You know, you're playing basketball, you realize that you got to switch things up, man. How does the army come into the scenario for you? How did it get into the mix?
So I decided like, all right, I definitely want to study medicine. Like I think that's, or at least I thought that's what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm studying, my major is exercise science, kinesiology, but I was also doing pre-med. So pre-med's not a major. It's like,
Yeah, yeah, I know.
pre-med is just, yeah, like courses that you can just take to get you accepted into medical school.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I'm doing all this, and then like there's a point where I'm like, damn, like I'm doing a lot, and like I really don't like sitting in class all day. Like I need to do something more physical because I'm not at this point, like I'm just not like, there's no fulfillment out of it, right?
Mm.
I'm like, I need to do something more physical. So I remember thinking about like the military and like, you know, maybe I could join them. And I had no idea at this time what ROTC was, like what like I just like the military to me was like action movies at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Literally like, oh look, they're shooting people, like that's cool.
G.I. Joe or something, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I remember going to the recruiter's office in West Orange, and I was telling them what I wanted to do. And then what's the pretest that you have to take?
ASVAB
before you
for enlisted.
yeah, there's like a pre-ASVAB that determines
Yeah,
like
like
how
a
well
pre
you
one.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah, I took that and I did like really well. And they were like,
nice.
"You sure you want to do this, man?" Like, I was like, "Oh, like why?" And like, I think they were literally like, "I think you should try check this out." It was ROTC. And so I did ROTC, and I was like, "Oh, like that's when I found out like an ROTC is like your path to become an officer."
Uh-huh.
So I was like, "Okay, I can do that." And I was like, "All right, well, what kind of officer can I be?" And they tell you about all the branches.
Yeah, yeah.
And like I was studying pre-med at the time, so I was like, you know what, I want to be a medical service officer. Like that was what makes sense to me. And honestly, man, like you know me now as like Lieutenant Dabon or whatever in the S3 shop, but in ROTC, because it was during college, like I was kind of a shitty cadet. Like I was like party, because at this time like I'm weaning off basketball more and I'm more focused on like school and yeah, I just remember I was pretty shitty cadet. Like you can ask any of my friends at the
All right.
time in my commissioning source, and like I was pretty like I was just literally just get by. I was like stay
Just
low,
enough to
get by
get. Yeah, yeah.
on the radar. And so we commissioned in 2020, height of COVID, right? In May of 2020. We were all like getting ready to leave the Bullock like in the next few weeks. So we're all like working out together in our own little groups. And I was probably the like most out of shape, like just like I was doing all the wrong thing. Like I was not taking care of myself. Like I wasn't running. I was just literally playing video games and eating junk food and drinking, like all that quarantine. So
That's
we
the
would work out.
quarantine effect. Yeah.
Yeah. And all my friends were like, "Yo, are you okay? Like, you know, you're leaving for Bowick like next week or something. Like, are you sure you're okay?" And I would always tell them, like, "Don't worry. As soon as I leave, once I'm out the door on the road to Missouri for Fort Leonard Wood, I'm telling you, I'm going to turn the switch on and you're not going to see this guy again."
There you go.
And no one believed me, because like I had that reputation at the time of just being like, "Oh, he's just getting by, like whatever." He's, you know, get to Leonard Wood, turn the switch on. And you know me now, like I'm totally not like that. Like if
Right.
I'm telling you this now and you probably are like, "You really?" Like, you know what I mean?
Well, after talking to you, I could kind of hear it now. I can kind of see it.
Yeah.
Maybe not before the interview. I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, I was partying. Yeah, it was bad.
I mean, I think you earned it, man. I mean, all the stuff you went through, you sound like you were a good kid, man. And sometimes I think, kind of like what I was talking about, the burdens of low expectations or the burdens of high expectations. Sometimes, people crack under that, man. It's like, always get good grades, be on the sport team, be a starter. Like all this stuff could be, sometimes you just need to throw that shit to the side and be like, I just need to have fun. And however it is that you have fun, maybe it's drinking, maybe it's dancing, maybe it's playing video games and eating Cheetos on the sofa. I don't know what it is, man. Like to everybody, it's different, man. But you can't do nothing and sit on your ass all day, but you can't have that pressure with you all the time too. And that's sort of like one of the things of life is finding that balance. What works for you, man? You know what I mean? What keeps you in a state where you're productive, you're engaged, you're driving towards something, but also you get like a lot of satisfaction from whatever it is that you enjoy doing, reading, writing, doing podcasts. Finding that mix, man, it's hard, especially as you go up in the ranks. As a fresh lieutenant like you, it's okay. But you imagine being like the general or something like that. How much time you think that guy has for anything? Probably not much whatsoever.
Yeah. And like I was just at the time during the quarantine, I realized like I'm way too comfortable, and that's when I was like, I don't think I like being comfortable. Like I kind of want to always be challenged and have something to keep me going.
Yeah.
And I think about it, right? Like I always say, like I think Korea is a bad first duty station, right?
Probably. I hear that a lot.
Junior officers and junior enlisted, I honestly think it's a bad first duty station because.
All right, let's hear the why. Yeah.
I just think, they get here, and when you're fresh out of initial training, right, your idea of the Army is just TRADOC. Like that's all you know.
The experience that you had, right? Yeah.
So you're used to, all the proper things, what right is. Right. And in Korea, as much as they try, it is not like that.
No. What makes you think it's different somewhere else, though? Because I've heard that, to me, tell you, throughout my whole entire career, even in a different branch in the Navy, every command I would go to, they would say, "Oh, this ain't the real Navy. Wait till you go somewhere else." and then you go somewhere else and they say the same thing. Oh, this ain't the real Navy. So I don't know, man. People tell me that a lot about the Army too. And I've only been to Leonard Wood, and I've only been to Korea, just like you. But I find it hard to believe that it's so much different in other places.
I wouldn't say it's so much different. I just think that, some like the junior enlisted soldiers, when they get here, like there's a lot more. There's just, I feel like the expectation here is just a little bit lower.
Okay, explain to me why, or for people who don't understand, because I don't understand.
Like the biggest issue in Korea is just like a huge lack of discipline. Like you look at the soldiers running around, like, I don't know, like right now in a battalion formation, I think 70% of our formation probably wouldn't be able to pass the PT test.
See, but I don't know if that's any different anywhere else, man. I really don't know, man.
For me, right, like fresh lieutenant, first duty station, and I'm saying this, and I probably shouldn't, because I haven't been anywhere.
Yeah.
But I have an expectation of like, okay, well, anywhere else, maybe like it'll probably be like everyone's just like crushing it. You know what I mean? Here, it's
I think
like,
there's probably certain units, certain commands that are kind of like that. Like I hear that about Bragg a lot. Like Sohua, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's the majority, man. I don't know if that's the exception or if that's the rule,
Yeah. Well, shit, if it's not, I think then something needs to change, because
there's probably a lot of things that need to change, man. But I don't know if we have the answers or enough time to figure all that out.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna take a lot of time and a lot of effort. But you just need to put the right people in the right seats, and I'm sure they'll figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think also like you kind of hinted towards it, where it's like, sometimes something has to happen, a spark. Like for you use the word like a challenge. I need some sort of challenge. And I think, as I've gone through life and I've looked at things in my life, I reflect that I kind of always needed something. And I think the human psyche is kind of like that. Like if the world was perfect, I tell people this all the time, we'd never get out of bed. You sort of need those things to get you to move, to create art, to create, these iPhones, or to join some sort of organization that's going to help people. You need something there, man. If there was no illness, if there was no suffering, if you had everything in your life, then why do anything? Just stay home all day. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And those are great days, by the way. Like I would love, I do love my lazy Sundays where I'm just in bed, just doing nothing.
Yeah,
eating ramen for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But I could probably do like literally one day of the week, and that's Sunday, and that's it.
There you go, man. You need it. All right, brother. Hey, thank you so much. Let's do this again. I wish you luck too in the future and everything that you're gonna be getting into.
All right, appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Yep, sure.